Hello, and thank you for watching my channel. I'm Chris, and this is the beginning of a series in which we take a deep dive and examine the entire mainline Metroid series in an attempt to analyze and critique these games. Metroid has been my favorite series of games for as long as I can remember. I've always been drawn to the ominous, atmospheric sci-fi world Nintendo first gave to us in 1986. Metroid is known for its cavernous world design with a huge emphasis on exploration and power-ups that allow the player to traverse areas previously inaccessible. Eventually, this unique blend of exploration and expanding movesets would go on to take the world by storm with games such as Hollow Knight and Ori. But where did it all start? What game defined this genre more than any other? Today, we're going to see if we can find the answers in none other than Metroid on the NES. Metroid was released in Japan on August 6, 1986. The game was designed to take full advantage of the Japanese exclusive Famicom Disk System, a floppy disk-based add-on for the Japanese equivalent to the NES. The platform's floppy disk format allowed the game to take advantage of trailblazing new features for the era, such as saving your game's progress. This gave players the ability to pick up from where they left off without the usage of passwords or keeping your system powered on to keep the game running. Due to the disk system's exclusivity to Japan, when the game was brought over to America, it was released on the cartridge format. This resulted in the sad removal of the save feature, replaced instead by the password system, a feature which was much more common during that era. Despite this huge omission, many gamers did not mind at the time of the game's American release in August of 1987, with the game eventually going on to sell close to 3 million units in its lifetime. Gamers of the day were much more acquainted to such things that we would consider massive inconveniences today. In fact, players in this era did not even expect a built-in map, with the most common way to experience this game at the time being to draw your own. I've often found myself wondering, does this experience hold any value to players of today? Ever since I saved up and bought an NES of my own, I've sworn to myself that I'd play and beat this game on its own terms. Technically, I have played and finished it a few times, but I've always taken advantage of modern amenities, save states, mods that add a map, or even cheat codes. But this time, I'm tackling the game how so many players in 1987 did. I will be using the password system to save my progress, and I will be drawing my own map. Today, we will find out if the true 1987 Metroid experience holds any value to players today. Let's get started. The game opens with a space-themed backdrop filled with shooting stars and ominous music, droning on E minor with a light melody evoking feelings of fear and uncertainty, before moving into a musical phrase more melodic and adventurous in nature. It is here that we learn the story of this game. We are told that we must defeat the Metroid on Planet Zebeth and destroy the Mother Brain. While this is not much by today's standards, any sort of in-game story in these days was something to behold. In fact, the game's manual actually gives us quite a bit more story with substantially more detail, laying out the history of the space pirates and formation of the Galactic Federation. It even tells us that our hero is the mighty and brave Samus Aran. Will he be able to destroy the Metroid threat? Once you press start on the title screen, you are dropped right into the world. If you head to the right, you will immediately find yourself with an inaccessible passageway. This forces you to explore to the left, your only other open path, leading you to the Morph Ball, and giving you passage to a previously unreachable area. This is the entire gameplay loop of a Metroid game. You are constantly looking for the passage forward, but regularly blocked due to the fact that you do not have the necessary items to get to where you're trying to go, putting the player into a loop of exploration and progression. The game is laid out into 5 areas: the cavernous Brinstar, the lava-filled Norfair, the space pirate hideout Ridley, the robotic Kraid, and the Metroid-infested final area, Torian. Each area offers their own flavor and atmosphere. I actually find the graphics in each area to be quite compelling considering that this is an NES game. The graphics are detailed and visually striking, creating an atmosphere that is distinct and unique while also being subtle and foreboding. As you traverse your way through these areas, you will come across many items along the way, including energy tanks, which increase your maximum health, missiles, packing extra firepower and allowing you to open red doors, the previously mentioned Morph Ball, allowing you to access narrow passageways, bombs, a Morph Ball only attack which allows you to kill low-level enemies and destroy certain blocks, Ice Beam, which allows you to freeze enemies and use them as a platform, Wave Beam, which substantially boosts your damage output, Varia Suit, which cuts all damage you receive in half, High Jump Boots, allowing you to jump substantially higher, and Screw Attack, the best upgrade in the game, which allows you to deal damage while jumping. Every item serves to not only grant you access to new areas of the game, but also to ease your travels in the very hostile world of Zebes. You're going to need them if you want to survive all of the side hoppers, lava pits, and flying onion rings ahead. I'm going to be very upfront about this. The game is not very forgiving. Many of the enemies in the various locations of the game are dead set on backing you into a corner and keeping you there. Don't expect many invincibility frames either. You've got about a second flat to try and get the fuck away before they absolutely destroy you. Once you collect all of these items and defeat the 2 major bosses of the game, you will find yourself heading to the final area, Torian. In this area, you will encounter Metroids for the first time, a parasitic life form which aims to attach to you and drain your health. Make sure you have the Ice Beam upon entering this area, otherwise you stand no chance. At the end of this area, you will find the final boss, Mother Brain, a supercomputer housed in a glass enclosure. Destroy the glass, dodge the terribly annoying onion rings, fill her with enough missiles, and she explodes. At this point, you will be introduced to one of my favorite aspects of the Metroid formula, the escape sequence. Carefully jump up this shaft until you reach the elevator, and then you're done. But the game still has one more surprise for you. Samus is a girl. Quite a progressive idea for the time, and one of the best twists in gaming history. It was at this moment that an icon of gaming was born. I did get genuine enjoyment out of drawing my own maps for the areas of this game. I actually felt that it made the experience more immersive and put me in a situation where I was forced to pay attention. I found that I was much more willing to explore once I knew that I was actively laying out and building my understanding of these areas. I often find people online complaining about the copy and paste nature of design in many rooms, but I found that once I had a map that was a much more manageable experience. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I truly believe the game was designed to actively encourage you to make your own map. Much of the world design issues are alleviated once you are willing to take the game on its own terms in this way. The controls in this game are mostly quite good. I actually like the way in which Samus's jumping controls are a bit floaty. There are only two issues that I have with the controls. The first is the lack of crouching. Many times your only option to kill enemies approaching you is to lay bombs. The other issue lies with the screw attack. As you can see here, Samus has a tendency to exit the somersault animation too early a lot of times. This often caused me to take undue damage. Another issue with the screw attack is that it will oftentimes take a few seconds for the game to register a jump as the screw attack, also resulting in undue damage. This, however, is a serviceable and relatively minor flaw. I only really experienced this issue while trying to grind for health. And speaking of grinding for health, when you die or reboot the game, you always restart with 30 health out of a maximum of 99 at the beginning of the game. The problem is not resolved by the acquisition of energy tanks either. When you die, and believe me, you will, you always respawn with 30 health. This forces you into a position where you must kill as many enemies as you can in an attempt to regain health. I can deal with that. That's common practice in just about every Metroid game following this one. The problem lies in the fact that the RNG to determine health and ammo drops in this game is flat out broken. Here's some footage of me trying to refill my health before the final area of the game, sped up 4 times. This is ridiculous. The problem only gets worse with the more E-tanks you have. I spent over 20 minutes trying to rebuild my health. 20 minutes. Absolutely ridiculous. And sadly, the problems do not stop there, as another problem with this game is the frustratingly cryptic world design, with many areas being completely hidden by destroyable blocks with no hint as to their destructible nature. Here are some examples: the passageway to Ridley, the room leading to Varia's suit, and the passageway to Kraid. While I understand the designer's desire to give the players freedom and create a world that begs to be explored, I cannot defend the decision to make so many of these places so well hidden. Gamers in this era did not have the internet. Gamers in this era could only rely on word of mouth and Nintendo Power. This would not be such a huge deal had the designers worked to teach you that these types of things would be in the game. But as it stands, there is no tutorial for the bombs, and there is no indication whatsoever that the player should expect to be searching for walls they can destroy. On a more positive note, however, Metroid is actually quite good at instilling a sense of atmosphere for an NES game. The soundtrack oftentimes creates a feeling of uneasiness that permeates the whole experience. The title theme is a stone-cold classic and remains the series' main theme to this day. It's quite impressive what Hirokazu Tanaka was able to achieve with such limited hardware. The theme for Brinstar is quite upbeat and inspires a sense of exploration and excitement that I love. The only track in the game that I really dislike is that of Ridley. I find it to be a little grating and tuneless, but I suppose that is rather fitting for the leader of the Space Pirates. The theme of Kraid, however, is magnificent, and I believe it actually benefits from the limitations of the NES sound chip. The remake on the Game Boy Advance doesn't even come close to this one, in my opinion. Overall, I did enjoy playing Metroid this time around, but I have to say that I don't think it holds much value to players of today. People today have no interest in drawing their own maps or dealing with a password system that is quite obviously antiquated. I think this one is best left to die-hard fans of the series. People who have played every modern entry and are looking for historical context. If you want to play this game but have no interest in passwords or cartography, I think it's worth looking into a couple ROM hacks that are available online. There are ones that add a map, reinstate saving, and even one that incorporates both of these while also instituting a complete graphical overhaul. All links are available in the description. With all of that said, however, I do think that there's serious potential here. I feel that with a sequel, Nintendo could really iron out the kinks in this formula and create a game that is truly outstanding, possibly one of the best games of all time. Thankfully, we have a sequel in the form of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. Does this game fulfill the promise of all of this potential? Does this game stack up as one of the best games of all time? Tune in next time when we take a look at Metroid 2: Return of Samus.